Hey, Dr. Cindy here. What is black unity? I always like to make you think, and that's what this is. This is just another thought exercise. I just want to open your mind a little bit about these things that we talk about all the time. We talk about unity, or in the case of black people, the lack thereof. Um, if you want to share this with someone as it's happening, please feel free to share. If later on, after it's over, you decide you want to share it because somebody might be interested, please also feel free. Feel free to get on here and tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Feel free to get on here and say, you know what, you have lost your mind. But think. That's all I'm asking you to do, because you're going to have to think in order to come to that conclusion that I basically lost my mind. And that's with regard to anything that I write or talk about. Again, this is Dr. Cindy. I'm going to be talking about unity. I can't really say that I was inspired by J. Edgar Hoover, because I wrote these two essays a couple of years ago on my website, www.calise-writer.com, and that's ALEASE-writer.com. But there was a post this morning that talked about what was supposed to be, he was asked more than likely, what was America's greatest threat? And he said America's greatest threat was Negro unity. And that got me thinking. And then I wrote a response that basically said, that's what white supremacists wanted you to believe there was no more of. And, but the first thing I'm going to do is, before I talk about that part of it, I want to read, as I usually do, one of my essays. This was done on April the 28th, 2017, and it's called What is the Body Black? I hope you can hear me. Let me make sure. Testing, testing. I'm sure you can. What is the body black? Recently, I decided to coin the unified condition of blackness in America, the body black. Those of us who are members of this group have one thing in common. We are all we are all American black people living within and navigating through the murky confines of white supremacy in America and attempting to steer clear of its most effective weapon, the system of racism. Of course, it is actually impossible to steer clear from that which affects every area of human activity for American blacks. And I must admit that I am being a tad bit facetious about the use of the words attempting to steer clear. And even though the power system's dynamic has changed to the extent that the rights and privileges of opportunity and justice are now apportioned to a degree, as opposed to outright denial of these intangible tangibles, rights and privileges such as equality, equity, and individualism are still lofty existential goals as yet unpracticed or actualized. You may ask why I included individualism in this matrix of rights and or privileges to which we aspire, but as yet have not been ascribed. You may say, but I am an individual, or I am my own person. The fact is that in reality and in terms of humanity, you are an individual person. That is a right ordained by God, with whom you believe, or the universal source, whatever your belief. However, in terms of the system of racism and what is allowed and what is not, you aren't. Not yet. Not as long as there is a system in place that can dictate your existence on this earth. Not as long as people can create and destroy your character without even knowing who you are. I want you to pay special attention to that one. Not as long as people can create and destroy your character without even knowing who you are. I'm not talking about you know this person because you've watched this person on TV or in the movies. Not as long as you can be obliterated on the perception of another human being that you are a threat. Let me repeat that one too. Not as long as you can be obliterated on the perception of another human being that you are a threat. There are even more not as longs that I could add, but those are not the point of this essay. And there is actually something beneficial we can consider within the privilege of individuality in terms of how we may tend to forego the tender embrace of it. We are one. For good or for bad, with all of the psychosis and codependence which may be inherent within this unity, we love, we shame, and we blame each other in unison. We may differ on the finer points of our lives and may attempt on a limited basis to exert some form of individuality among ourselves, but unless we have completely divorced ourselves from ourselves, I won't dignify those folks in this writing. We are together in our love and hate for ourselves, our collective conditions, our successes, and our failures. We rejoice in our triumphs and we mourn our defeats. We are the body black. That was one of the essays that I wrote. I wrote another essay around the same time because I wanted to talk some more about this whole idea of individuality and the body black. And I was talking about that in 2017, and here it is 2019, and I'm still talking about it. I'm talking about it in reference to the way that we manage to condemn ourselves on perceptions. And we've been doing a lot of that of late. Let me see if I can get that other essay. Bear with me just a moment. This one's called Changing Your Own Mind, Being Yourself, and Remaining Part of the Body Black. Many of us are so conditioned to shame and blame ourselves on so many levels. Black people, that at some point we are simply going to have to decide to change our minds about ourselves. I want you to keep that part uppermost in your mind, because to those people who believe that we are not unified, that we as a people still have to come together, I want you people to understand that that is something within your own mind that you have the ability to change. And unless and until you decide to change it, what Mr. Hoover said is going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. That threat of unity that they don't have to seem to worry about, because we still haven't just come together, and we seem to be waiting for this grand moment of complete and utter unity. That is really just a fallacy. We are simply going to have to decide to change our minds about ourselves. Each of us, one at a time. We are going to have to take advantage of our own individuality. That thing that is considered one of the white privileges, which is perhaps why many of us haven't seen the point in pursuing any real notion of it. I understand the complexities of our situation. Believe me, we have been conditioned for the entire 50 years of the so-called end of racism and post-racial colorblind era to believe that every evil we do reflects on us all. While our subsequent behaviors and beliefs are not a direct result of this period, it is true that this era, coupled with the 200 years prior to the so-called civil rights movement, do hold a distinction of group blame for our collective situation in this country. It would, however, be insane not to consider the cunning of the Nixon administration and the nation's desire to push back from the gains of the 60s, since it was at this time during his administration that gave birth to individualized racism and what one of my Facebook friends coined personal responsibility racism. Let's admit it. Not for the entire body black, but for ourselves. If we are stuck, let's admit that many of us won't even buy from any black-owned businesses if we are unsatisfied with what we got from even just one of them. When a crime has been committed, I don't have to tell you, because if you are stuck, you will still cringe at the thought that the person committing the crime was black. And when you find out that he or she was, you fly to social media to condemn our entire body black. Much of what the supremacists bank on in the first place is our inherent unity. Our inherent unity. And history teaches us that when we have welcomed both the good in us and the bad, and have shamed and blamed ourselves for the sake of ourselves and white people, let me repeat that. Much of what the supremacists bank on in the first place is our inherent unity, and history teaches us that we have welcomed both the good in us and the bad, and have shamed and blamed ourselves for the sake of ourselves and white people. I won't belabor this post to talk about what most of us know or should know about why many of us behave the way we do. There is so much information out there that unless you are unable to read, you should be checking out the history of us post-slavery. I will write more about what Nixon and his cronies did to turn this system into what it is today. You, by yourself, start here. Stop indicting our entire body black for the actions of one or a few. Take advantage of individuality when it suits. See, this is the thing. You're not betraying our unity if you think for yourself. Many of us think that we do somehow betray the body if we think for ourselves. I don't know how many Trekkies are out here, but we are not really the Borg. Being an individual will not take away from your membership in the body black, believe me. You will continue to be categorized, scrutinized, stereotyped, and convicted on the basis of our entire group by white supremacists and generally unschooled whites. Anyway, change your own mind and decide to realize you weren't to blame. You are not to blame, and you do not have to shame yourself on behalf of yourself or the rest of us. Those are the two essays that I wrote back in 2017 In fact, one was one day and one was the next, back in April, 2 years ago. Now I'm going to see if I can find what I wrote with regard to the post. Here it is. Here was the post. When FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was asked what, in his opinion, was the single greatest threat to the United States of America, he responded, Negro unity. And the meme says, take a moment to let that sink in. Now, for me, it sparked what I wrote. But I'm sure for other black people, the very first thing in the mind was, and I'm not going to say all other black people, but I'm going to say some, because just like white people, not all of us think the same way, or even behave the same way. But I have a feeling that some people took that to say, well, we don't have any unity. But here's the thing. I said, think about that statement. We are all conditioned to think the civil rights movement was one big thing that never happened since. Think about this. What is unity to you? What do you think of when you think in terms of black unity? Just think. What comes to mind when you think of black unity? Do you believe that it is something that we had? Maybe it was during slavery. Maybe it was during the African-American nadir after Reconstruction. Perhaps it was that period of time during the 30s and 40s and 50s. Maybe it only really happened during the civil rights movement, when we saw the throngs of black people arm in arm with Martin Luther King, and this was the one time, the one moment where black people were unified and together, and we haven't seen it since. As a result, many have been waiting for that same level of momentum, not even realizing that that was all a fallacy. And I'm not talking about what we saw on TV. None of that was a fallacy, but what was a fallacy, and what was bleached and what was revised for you to think was that it was one big thing. And it wasn't. It wasn't one big thing. The movement was actually a whole lot of individual efforts, or movements, plural, coming together. A whole lot of individual movements coming together, very much the same way individual efforts and movements are working today. If ever there was a time that there are movements happening, it is the same kind of movements that were occurring back then. So now think about Hoover's statement again, but this time realize that we actually never lost any unity, but the goal of the last 60 years had been to make us think we had. I want you to think, people. There's always a method. Why would they show this one thing out of hundreds or possibly thousands of individual movements? 2, 3 people getting together, 4, 5 people getting together, People like me talking about it and then sparking other people to think and move and act. But no, they're only going to show you that's one itty bitty little thing made it look like it was this one humongous thing. And it's been their goal for the last 60 years to try to make you think that this was our big opportunity, and anything beyond that has not and cannot happen again. Like it ain't possible. This is what you need to remember. Recall. Bring back into your mind, if it was ever there. We don't have to wait until the entirety of we as a people are assembled to get in gear. Individual effort makes group effort possible. Get off your asses, individuals. You don't have to keep sitting there talking about what we as a people are not doing. Get up off your ass and begin to do something. Let somebody see you do something. Ask them if they would be interested in doing something with you. You know what? If people, no, I'm not going to say if people flock to pyramid schemes. They flock to multi-level marketing. And I know, it's because you think you're going to make a little money. Why don't you think about equality, equity, justice, and opportunity as multi-level, and start bringing in people. Start with you and start bringing in people. Build. But it takes an individual to begin to do that building. Now I'm going to look over here on the side because I do see something. Paradigm shifting. Yeah, Freddie Barkley. It could be construed as that, but the paradigm shift actually occurred after the 60s during the post-racial colorblind era. That was a paradigm shift of magnitude because it was during that time that systemic racism was able to be tucked away and work in background in perpetuity, while individual behavior was made manifest in terms of what racism was supposed to stand for. Yeah. Good. I want to see those brain synapses moving. You say we're hitting on all cylinders. Yeah. That's my goal. You know, my mantra is I am not trying to change your mind, but I have made it my business to open it. So I want you to think about that stuff. I want you to think about unity. Think about Black unity. Think about what it means to be unified. And do we need the entirety of our race in order to consider ourselves unified? That is absolutely impossible to do. And it becomes a self-defeating prophecy because, well, it's a self-defeating mechanism, because if you're always waiting, you don't generally get it done because you're still waiting for everybody else. Make that move. And there's some people that get on my pages and post in just that way, and I will challenge you. You know who you are. Every last one of you, you know who you are. Stop waiting for we the people. We as a people, rather. And begin to do things yourself. And you can draw people to you. Oh, okay. Yeah, oh, I know. I got you. I got you, Freddie. I got you the last time that you said what you said. When you said you were hitting on all cylinders, and yeah, good. I'm glad it's coming through loud and clear. That's what it's supposed to do. And if it doesn't, do know that at the end of this video, I will get on the comments, and even if all I do is acknowledge, I will let you know that I did see your comment. If if you have a question or comment now, I will try to answer it for you. Um, and I also will comment once this is over. Oh, I see. Oh, yes. And thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that, Freddie Barkley. I think actually you may be the only one on here live. But like I said, I don't do these videos to see how many people will come on board and listen, because most of the time what ends up happening is the video gets shared among people who may think other people who are interested, or it just gets viewed that way, and that's fine. That's fine. I get on here because I get these inspirations, and just like I do when I'm writing my essays, I'm inspired by something generally. My friend and colleague and journalist and psychologist Fannie LaFleur calls us multidimensional people. And I agree, because we live, at the very least, we live a duality. Because we have to live in both worlds, ours and the world that was created for us via racism. So, we struggle sometimes with our loyalties, and we struggle sometimes with understanding where certain behaviors are coming from, feelings and behaviors. Certainly, we don't want to think we being conditioned, even though we are being conditioned every day through music, through the entertainment medium, constantly. And we were indoctrinated as children into adulthood, and now we are being conditioned through these forms of programming to keep that level of confusion in our minds going. Yeah, I would say that. I would say that. You said your message needs to be heard by the masses. Well, yeah. I would think so. I have a YouTube page, Freddie. It is called Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith, the doctor is in. And what I usually do is I upload these videos to that page, to that platform after they're done. Thank you. Yeah, I figure, I'm getting old. Truth be told, I'm not a spring chicken. I've been around. I was 14 years old when Martin Luther King died, just so you know. And he died in 1968. I was 14 in 1968. So just do your math, and you'll figure out how old I am now. Yeah. Hi, Gregory Sanders. How are you? Anyway, That's all I really wanted to talk about. I had this desire to get on here and talk about unity, and, to try to get through our mind, get through your mind, that it is only in your mind the level of unity that we either have or do not have. You can't use an individual's behavior, whether it's Charles Barkley or Shaquille O'Neal or what's that fellow, the rapper, the one that's married to the Kardashian, you know. Look, I'm old. I'm having a senior moment, but you know who I'm talking about. You can't go by these individual people using their individual minds, even though they are diametrically opposed to what we think as a collective. You can't take those people and use them as the litmus test for unity of an entire race of people, because it just doesn't make sense. No, Omarosa has not wrecked it. She has not wrecked the unified collective of black people in this country. No. It's in here. It's how you think. If you think that we're not unified, then how in the heck do we still think all of us did something when one person did something? I mean, of course, that's the bad side of it. That's the side I wish we didn't concentrate on so much. But it exists. Ah, you're in media and on the radio here. And oh, you're in Cleveland and you're taking social media mastery course. Great, that's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. I did my master's in writing studies. My doctorate is in education. I figured I needed. I mean, I didn't even go back until what, I was 62, but I figured be good because of the things that I talk about. You need to have a credential in order to express yourself in this country and be taken seriously for what it is that you're talking about. Hi, Michael Willis. I hope you're still there. Damn it. Thank you, Wyatt. That name escaped me, but that doesn't mean anything because as old as I am, he wouldn't have been in my in my iPod anyway. He would have been in my grandchildren's iPod, and with the possible exception of my husband, it might be in his iPod too. I don't know. Oh, thank you. There are a couple of, it's like when a black person says your articulation is off the chart, you can say, oh, thank you. But you let somebody white say you're articulate, I'd be asking them why. But I got you. I know what you're saying, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, I instilled that in my children as well. It is important to be able to communicate. In fact, my my dissertation was on African American writing in the 21st century, and it and in that, because there wasn't a lot of scholarly research in that, I used a lot of information and scholarly resources related to linguistics and speech patterns and things like that as well, because words are they are the let me see if I can remember from my defense. They are the linguistic. Words are the symbols used for linguistic expression, more or less. Um, yeah. So anyway, Are there any questions from anybody? I mean, let's talk unity. Talk to me. Talk to me what you think unity is all about. I happen to think that we are. I mean, for good or for bad, we are. We are unified. You know, sometimes what we need to do is to be able to discern when it's time to take advantage of that individual nature in us and stand out as an individual, and when we should totally 100% embrace our unified collective self. I mean, trust and believe. You can see what's going on today in terms of whiteness as a state of being, and how there is a push toward that as a state of being again, where it existed prior to the 60s. Um, they're trying to reclaim their collectivity, and I'm not saying they all, but the white supremacist racists are trying to regain and bring forth that collectivity that they enjoyed prior to the 60s. Huh? Oh, you are? Oh, one sec. Okay. Okay. All right, honey. It's my son. My baby. He's 32. Getting ready to go to work. Anyway. So, I digressed. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, I do have an opportunity. I will mention this, Freddie. I was invited to participate in a radio broadcast on Saturdays, sometimes, with a show named The Michael Gay Show on Blog Talk Radio. It's part of the J. King network of shows, and I generally go on it comes on Saturdays at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. and it's on Blog Talk Radio, and it's part of the J. King network called The Michael Gay Show. And it's a talk show, and they talk about news and views, and he has wonderful guests, sometimes musical guests. He had my friend Dexter Wanzel from Philadelphia, Philly International Music. I mean, just legends. He has a number of really, really good people that come on, and Janet Davis, one of his co-hosts, invited me to come back from time to time. So I do get to read my essays, and then they're generally discussed with people who call in. Well, I mean, Freddie, I don't quite understand what you mean by I have to build a consensus and momentum with my message, because um, I'm not here to market anything. What I do is I get on here and I speak. Any momentum or consensus is generally built through sharing, because this is why I'm on this social media platform and not strictly on my website or on YouTube. So, I mean, if you share, then people see. And I have to say, I have been getting um, a large number of views after the fact. So people are sharing and people are interested. I have been getting a bit of feedback. So yeah, in that sense, yeah. Do I want to blow up? Not literally. Figuratively, I just want the message to get out there. Okay, and if you share it, that's a good thing. That means it's getting out there. I'm not sure who Miss Shantae Amber Kelly. Well, what you can do is you can ask her to message me. I'm not sure who she is, um, but like I say, it's always good to, it starts with individuals getting together. That's what forms groups. So, yeah, yeah. That would be good. You can have her message me, Freddie. Okay? That would be good. Okay. Listen, I'm going to get off because I am pretty much done. If there are no other questions about Unity, you can always comment after the fact as well. And I'll look at your comment and respond to it if it's a question, or if you're commenting and I feel so inclined to respond to it, then, I will. Uh, I want you to think. That's the main thing. I want you to think. I want you to put on your critical thinking caps. I want you to make sure, just in case, see, I wear my lenses all day long, all day, every day. Even when I'm asleep, I have my lenses on. I need you to put your lenses on. Those are your lenses that enable you to see past color blindness. Oh, hey, Mike. Okay. Mike just dropped by. I won't go yet. So, Mike, we're talking about unity, black unity, and the comment and the post that was made. Somebody put a post up where J. Edgar Hoover apparently was asked the question, what was the biggest threat in America? And he said Negro unity. That's really ironic coming from a man who it is purported was black. At least one of his parents were. And it wasn't in some sort of ancestral parentage. It was one of his immediate parents, whether it was mother or father. And he may have been suffering from one of the worst cases of internalized self-hatred. So, anyway, I say we are unified. I say sometimes we only express the unity when we are ostracizing someone, whether it's perceived or whether it is an actual situation. When it is an actual situation, when the person who is black has committed a crime for which he has been convicted, and it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that this person has committed a crime. And I say that with a caveat, because when I say those things, I often have to go back to those two men who were put in prison for 42 years. 42 years. The age of my oldest son. And they were convicted, supposedly beyond a reasonable doubt. So, even in that, you have to be able to use your head and think and discern and think to yourself, is this, what's really going on here? You can't say that there are no black criminals, because we know that there are. But I think that when we find ourselves, and this is that whole thing I talk about when I talk about discerning when you should use your individual thought process as opposed to the group think, and make your own decision instead of jumping on that bandwagon of abuse and condemnation, especially when it's just a perceived notion. of some black person having done something. I find myself in getting into it all the time, though. I do. I say these things, but sometimes I get caught up in it, and you can't help but get the shivers and the shakes when things happen. Like one time, recently there was a murder at a Wawa, and I find myself, and the Wawa was up in Wayne, Pennsylvania, which is one of the more affluent. It's part of the main line in the affluent area or the white area of the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. So my thought was somehow, even though it was a murder, I had a sense of relief because he wasn't black. The murderer wasn't black. And that's kind of messed up. I scratched my head on that one. Just like I get really filled up and nervous when something happens and I want to make sure that whoever it was wasn't black. Or to discover that the person was black and feel like, oh God, this is affecting the entire race. I know you feel it too. You do. We all do. Why? Because for better or for worse, we are unified. We are the body black. We are a body. Hi, Eileen. How are you? I saw your post. You're in my prayers. Okay? Do you have a question? Hey, oh, you pull somebody in. Ah, and Shantae, is it? Shantae Amber Kelly, are you here? I hope you are, or I hope you see it and message me because one of your friends is interested in us meeting, and I would love to do that. Anyway, we're talking unity. Anybody want to talk about black unity? Or let's talk about your feeling if you think that it doesn't exist. Because one of my questions to you would be, when do you think it actually did? What was that period of time? When did it exist? Or did it ever exist? Are we in a perpetual state of waiting for that moment when we all come together as a unified force? What do you think? Did my cat leave? I hope he did. What do you think? Do you think that there was a period of time where we as a people were unified? Hey, Khalil. It's Khalil Hakeem. I don't know whether you want me to, so I'm not going to mention your endeavor unless you want me to. So, hey, buddy, unless you want me to mention what you are endeavoring to do, I won't mention it. But if you type that you do, I will mention it at this time. Hey, Ken, how you doing, buddy? I've been on for a minute, you guys. Oh, go for it. Wonderful. Okay. Khalil Hakeem is putting together what is going to be a great source of news and information called the Melanin News Network. It's still in the works, but when it is done, it is going to be an excellent source for you. It will be contributing writers, and there will be commentary on health and wellness, on politics. He's even got a segment called Them Butter. Wait, that cracks me up. Okay, because that cracked me up when I first saw it. Okay, it's called Dem Butter Biscuits. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean, but I promise you, it is going to be enlightening. Dem Butter Biscuits. It's called the Melanin News Network, and it will be coming your way soon. I probably when it does come up. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Hey, I got a little vested interest in this. Not gonna say what it is, but I do have a vested interest in it. Ah, okay, Mike. You say personally, and now I have to say, Mike is white. Mike says, personally, I believe white people are in fear of black unity. I do believe so, and I think that's why um, when there are groups of black people, and a group can be two in areas, they are generally accosted and will 9 times out of 10 be moved from wherever they are if they're in a public space. Uh, Years and years ago, they had they had the loitering laws. I do believe there's still some loitering laws around, which if you are congregated, if you're more than one of us congregated, that is a problem for white people. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, I got it. I caught that. That's why I wrote it. I mean, that's why I read it the way that I knew you meant it to be, Mike. Yeah, yeah, there is a fear. And I would want to ask, what do they mean? What is it about black unity that white people fear, and what white people, at the same time that they uh, group us all together as a unified force, they cut the force out because they only unify us in terms of the bad. I wonder what the thinking is in terms of that unity that they think of, that they're so fearful of. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That is true. But can you know as well as I do, today, in this era, the Trumpian era, which, history will give it a name years from now, 50 or 60 years from now, after I'm long dead. I think I'll be, 60 years from now, I'll be 125 years old. Ooh, I wouldn't even want to live that long. But they will have coined a name for this period of time. Right now, I'm just going to call it the Trumpian era. And during this time that we are living in, this history that we are living in right now, you can know your rights, you can express your rights, and you can still get killed. So, it's one thing to know your rights, it's another thing to try to express them. Okay, Mike says, take for example how they listed the Black Panthers as a terrorist group. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And created the fear because there was really no reason to fear the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were in the black community, unified and individual. Each person in that organization was an individual. And they took their individual selves and put together a network of food banks, schools, and wonderful things for the black community. And they had guns. Because even then, the police were killing black people. Even back then. And the Black Panthers defended black people. Yeah, they were. Ah, this professor explained Reconstructionism. I taught it this year. It's like a paragraph. Now, Eileen, I won't be able to see the entirety of your message until after I'm finished this, because for some reason on this computer it doesn't allow me, when it says see more, it actually doesn't allow me to see the rest of your comments. So I will respond to that after the video is over. Hey, Calvin. How are you, Calvin? Hey, Warren Jackson. Oh, okay. I'm beginning to get a few more people on. All right, I'm gonna stay on until everybody goes away, or until I run out of stuff to talk about. We're talking unity. We're talking specifically Black unity. Um, I was inspired by uh, the thought of Black unity or Negro unity being a threat in the eyes of the head of the FBI back in the 60s. Um, which, like I said, was ironic since at least one of his parents was purported to be black. Um, okay, Eileen, you said you heard Obama in Berlin. I don't quite understand the context. Obama, he said the candidates are metaphorically shooting each other. Oh, yeah, but he's talking more in terms of politics. He's not talking in unity in the Democratic Party. That's not what I'm discussing here. And just because Obama was the one speaking does not mean that he's talking about black people. Um, I don't understand the connotation between what we're talking about here and Obama speaking about politics and the Democratic Party. But he knows as well as everybody else that primaries are strange bedfellows. The Republicans will do the same thing and have. They bit each other's backs out during the Republican primary for president. The winner and president of the United States was the worst in terms of the things that he did, in terms of shooting at the other candidates. He took pot shots that still resonate today with some of the names that he called people. So I mean, we really that's really neither here nor there. This is something that these parties do. This is a two-party system. This is what they do. Right now I'm talking about black unity, African American unity, black people, and our unity or lack of it, and what it means to be unified. What does it mean to be unified? What are we waiting for? If those of us who think that we're not unified, what are we waiting for? I'm about to lick my lip off. I'm going to need to put some lipstick on. I'm going to have to put you guys up this way for a little while. And don't laugh at the dust on my mirror, on my thing here. Ow! Okay. I had to get on my vanity, put on some lipstick. It's just a little light thing I put on. It's like more like a chap lip thing, because I lick my lips like ridiculously. Anyway, okay. Freddie says, I believe the lack of unity perspective is based on our seeming inability to bring real change. I don't get to see the rest of what you wrote, but what you've written that I can see is very, very interesting, Freddie. Yes, I wouldn't say it's 100% based on an inability to bring change. Um, I think that that's a frustration. I definitely think that it's a frustration because of the level of perceived change that was made during the 60s. So you got to understand, though, during the 60s, the only thing that was really affected was one aspect of racism, which was segregation. And what the powers that be did, these white supremacist liberals did, was conflate or define basically racism as segregation. This is why if you go back in history, just go back, when you think of racism in the 60s, all that was actually spoken about was segregation. Segregation, 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 segregation. That thing, that separation of black people and white people, and that if that separation could somehow be dissolved, that racism would in fact also dissolve, which we know was not the case, because racism is a lot more than just segregation or separation from white people. You know, this is why a lot of people, and I know because I lived during that time, I resented that. I said, why in the heck is this all about us being able to sit at a diner with white people? Why is it so important that we be able to do these things? Why are they making that it? When people were being killed on the streets, when people were dying, they weren't dying because they weren't being killed at the hands of police because segregation. So the thing that ended up happening, this integration or assimilation of us, only really affected, you know what I call it? You can go back and check stuff. You won't see this name, but because this is the name I coined it as, but the only thing that was really affected was economics, to a very small degree. That's why I call that period of time the economic apportionment movement. Because what we did was we were allowed movement into the white economic class caste. But this isn't really about that. But just so you know, that's all that was about. So let me see what Ken says. Doesn't have to do with the body black. Doesn't it have... Okay, Eileen says, doesn't it have to do with the body black that their vote could decide the next election? That's interesting. It's interesting you should say that. Not in the sense, not within the context of what you wrote me just now. You said that the candidates are metaphorically shooting each other. I have an idea what you mean by that. But what that has to do with people voting as opposed to the candidates themselves fighting with themselves, I don't understand. You're going to have to be more specific, because I think you're trying to get to a point, but I don't see where it makes a point where black people could decide the next election. This is true. We actually decided what we have right now. Thank you. You're welcome. For the 2018 primaries. You're welcome. You're welcome, people. All people who love life and the pursuit of happiness and democracy and freedom, justice, and equality for all. You're welcome. And you are right. We could decide that next election. But like I said, I don't know where that relates to Obama speaking in Berlin about infighting among the Democratic Party. Because, the body black ain't voting for just one person. I mean, if that's what you meant. Yeah, we can decide an election as a group, as a collective, just like white people can decide an election as a group and a collective, and who have been deciding elections as a group and a collective. However, it takes individual voting by individual people. We're not all getting together and saying, okay, all black people get together and vote for such and such. It's not the way it works. Okay? All right. Okay, Ken says, if we were to arm ourselves like white people, gun laws would change immediately. Oh, yes. Ken, I don't know how old you are, but I think that we're at least partly in the same generation, maybe by about 10 years or so. But gun reform happened as a result of the Panthers. Okay? That's when it became, oh my God, we have to put together some gun laws. We are going to have to we gotta make sure that these guns don't ever get into the hands of people like these again. That's how all that started. Okay? So yeah, if a group like the Panthers got together and were a real force again as they were before, or were becoming a real force as they were before, in terms of defense and safety, we would see automatic, we would see semi-automatic, we would see AR-15s just wiped off the face of the planet, or most certainly out of this country. Oh gosh, they would ban them. Or if not, they would see to it that certain kinds of people didn't get them. That whole let's face it, try though they may, every black person is not going to have an arrest and conviction record. Try though they may, because they really, oh Lord, back in the 70s, you got picked up for anything. A black person, you got picked up, fingerprinted, and it used to be so bad that on a job applications, it said if you were arrested for a crime, they had to change that to convicted of a crime. That's why that's on applications now, because they were arresting black people at such a rate that it actually got rather ridiculous. Oh yeah, the Second Amendment has always been, oh yeah, of course. It started with the militias way back when. Because remember, there was no army. There were militias back in the day. Okay, there was no federal armies like the Army and the Navy and stuff. Just look at your history and see when they were formed. Yeah. Oh yeah. If we were to arm ourselves, yeah. Oh, if we were to arm ourselves like white people, gun laws would change immediately. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I read that already. Yep. That's true. Very true. Yeah. I, for one, though, I'm ambivalent about guns. I'm very ambivalent about guns. I try to suppress that part of me actually because sometimes I do get very angry over the treatment of black people in this country, and I feel like I don't want to advocate violence, but I do advocate defense. And with that, I do, but I stop short of the whole arming thing. You know what I mean? But like I said, I'm kind of betwixt and between because some days I'm like, we got to get some guns and defend ourselves. And some days yeah, but it would be like those poor people, those Palestinians in Gaza who are fighting with stones compared to the arsenal of weapons in Israel. That's what it would be like. Discuss the role of religion. Touchy, 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 touchy subject, Freddie. Touchy. I did write something, by the way, that I will find based on just that thing. I hope I can find it. Hold on a sec. Bear with me for just a second, because I do have something here that I wrote. Good Lord, I hope I can find it. I don't want to take too much of your time, people. And I've been on for a minute, so hold on a sec. Hold on. Let me see if it's here. It might be on my other page. Easier. It might be easier to find it on my other page. Give me a secondo, and I will see if I can find that. Because I had actually a rather large statement that I made with regard to religion, and let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay. All right, Mike. Take care. You can look at the rest after it's all up, because I'm going to upload it. So I'll talk to you later. Good to see you. Let me see if I can find this thing. Let's see if I can find it. Hope I can. Wait. Nope, not that one. Not that one, but it's coming up. It's coming up. And you may have seen it. Some of you may have seen it. Hi, Henry Dill. I'm actually looking for something. One of my Facebook friends wanted me to talk about religion. And I do have something. Here it is. I found it. Okay, let me read what I wrote. And let me point to this picture. My inspiration for this post was about the female artist who painted God as a black person and how she faced severe backlash for her art. Her art was beautiful. But it made me think. I said, we really got to get over. We got to get over this. We must, as a people, and I'm speaking collectively. Those of us, or those who, because I can't really count. I'm being individual now. I'm only speaking for myself here. Okay, as I write this, and I'm speaking as someone who has embraced and not a number of religions. All right? Because I'm always thinking, it's just me. One day, this biggest of issues will have to be faced, or not. And if you think any differently than what is written below, or what I'm going to say, you are deluding yourself. One. Oh, thank you, Andre. Oh, yeah, it is. Religion is part of it. Okay, you have to, before I even go into this any further, you can't separate it out. White supremacy is in everything. And when I read this to you, I just want you to listen to it with an open mind. I'm not asking you to do anything other than that. Okay? A very learned person, very, very astute and smart thinking person named Neely Fuller Jr. outlined all of the areas of human activity where racism lives. And religion is one of them. Okay? 1. America's God, and I'm being specific here. America's God is indeed white, with blue eyes, and depending on a particular denomination, blonde or brown hair. But make no mistake, he's lily white, and he's a man. A. Why? 1. Because white men are made in his image, or vice versa. Now think about what I'm saying. White men are made in his image, or vice versa. His image is made from white men. Think about that. Most women appear to accept that at least for the first human birth, not crafted from white, clay, or dust. And there's a distinction, see, because it was white clay and white dust. They came from Adam's rib cage, instead of the way humans are born today, from women's vaginas. So what they're saying is, white men are made in this image of God. And most women will agree or accept that they were actually born out of a man, as though that were humanly possible. And you'll say supernatural, but yet you're not supposed to believe in the supernatural. It can't go both ways. Okay? B. America shares their God with Europe, and history has shown that aggression created most non-white converts. 2. The very image of a black representation of the omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, and all other omni references would completely and utterly obliterate the root belief of their absolute inherent power eternal, living in the whiteness of the Almighty, which is the ultimate basis for their ideology of superiority. The whole enchilada, the Alpha and the Omega, with all other notions of superiority coming from this uppermost point down. Absent, of course, any earthly power which is present through their sheer aggression, of course. Black people, you do not own this American God any more than you own America's Santa Claus. No matter how much brown paint you use on Jesus' effigies, or try to picture his face when you close your eyes to pray. It matters not what texture Jesus' hair is, the region he is purported to have been born, or what his skin color should look like based on those parameters. At this point, you may as well realize there is apparently an issue regarding one true God. a one true God. So which is yours? And don't even try to get away with the God having no color. That just creates yet another God. Do I want you to question whether God exists or not? Nope. It's not why I wrote what I wrote. Do I want you to think critically about what you do not ordinarily think about? Absolutely. I just want you to think. Use your head, please. Think about the stuff you don't usually think about, people. And then at the end, I throw my little mantra in there. I do not want to change your minds, but I made it my business to open them. Because that's all I really want to do. I just want to open your minds up, make you think. So, okay, so Freddie, you're asking, what does it say? What does that say about Christianity for us blacks? Well, it says, oh, hold on, it's my grandson. Oh, thank you, Moody. He broke my watch. Thank you, Moody Poots. Thank you. I'm not sure what that says. One, because I can't speak for all black people. And two, because that's a personal decision. That's a relationship you have in religion. That's one of the dictates of Christianity, that it be your personal relationship with God. And that is what we resist. So, you're right about that. Exactly. Yeah, because there's so many contradictions. There's so many contradictions in the very book that's used as the source of all faith-based knowledge. Books, I should say. There's so many contradictions. And yet, even though there are rationales made, there are conclusions drawn that some are actually very irrational. Yeah. But that was my take when I looked at that, and I said, oh, she's such a wonderful artist, and she's well within her right to see God the way she wants to see God, just like any black person can decide to see God the way he or she wants to see it. But I just need you to understand that America's God, no matter what you think, America's God is white. Yep. Sorry. So, unless you are of the belief that there is more than one God, or that, because these are the kinds of things I hear. I generally will hear, well, that ain't my God. That's my poop in the back. Hi, Mother! This is my shadow. My Moody Pooty. Anyway, I'm digressing. My Moody Pooty's here. I'm going to have to go because, he's such a dog. I just love him. Yeah. And he's not going to get down. He's going to keep distracting me this entire time. That's my buddy. He's 5. But anyway. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you very much. Moot. You listening to Nana? Have you been listening to me? You haven't. Half of it you don't understand anyway. Okay. All right. I'm going to get ready to get... Oh, he left. Okay. I may not have to get off. If he gets back up here, then I'm going to have to get off. Because that means he's telling me, Nanny, get the heck off of Facebook Live. I don't really even know how long I've been on here. I think I've been on here for a minute. Hi, Arthur Martin. Every time it seems... Moot. Oh, he's fine. Moot, you gotta be quiet, okay?
Okay.
Well, excuse me. Anyway, we were talking about unity, and then we got off into religion, and black people and Christianity in particular. My own particular feeling is that I don't even like to get into an argument over what color God is. First of all, to even associate a color to a something that is supposed to be all those omnis, even the very thought of the jealous God, I have a problem with, because you're associating human behavior with God, who is supposed to be beyond all of that. The omnipresent or omnipresence, but yet they'll sing "Come by here." If he's omnipresent, why do you have to ask him to come by here? You see, there's a lot of inconsistencies and things that just tear away at my brain cells. So I don't really subscribe to a lot of it anymore. Hey, Michael, how are you? I was talking about the show on Saturdays at 6 on Block Talk Radio, the Michael Gay Show, part of the J. King network of shows on Blog Talk Radio. And he comes on at 6, and he has very thought-provoking and interesting commentary and wonderful guests. And I am invited from time to time to be a co-host on the show and offer my opinions on topics surrounding race, racism, white supremacy, and sometimes I evaluate racialized words and things like that on there too as well. So yeah, that's a good show to tune into on Saturdays at 6 Eastern. You want me to do a part 2, 3, 4, and 5? You need to get on my website. On my website, there's a link to the YouTube channel, and then you get to see some of the other things that I've done, Freddie. This is also going up there when I'm done. We're talking about unity, talking about black unity. We're talking about the fact that we already have it. And if you don't think we do, then use your mind. Think critically about what it is you consider unity. What is it that makes for unity? Unity is, to me, is the unified state of blackness as a state of being. That whole collective, the fact that we are the body black, for better or for worse. We're married to each other. It is what it is. And one thing that we can do is to take Fannie LaFleur's advice and start expressing ourselves as the multidimensional beings that we are, and be able to discern when it is appropriate to use this precious gift of individuality that we are so often denied, but we are free to exercise, should we decide to. And not to reserve our collective unity for mass condemnation of each other when there is one of us who does wrong or who is perceived to have done wrong. I did a video not too long ago where I was so angry over an article and a video that showed a little black boy 10 years old being handcuffed and put into a police car. And the immediate condemnation of this young boy was almost more than I could bear. Just almost more than I could bear. And I got on and I was very angry, and I named some names of people who made those nasty, disgusting comments about this young boy, and come to find out he was wrongfully arrested. And, you know, it brought back the memories of the roundups. I don't know how many people know about the roundups. But I don't want to really get into that too much, though. But there were, and there are still roundups occurring where something happens and the cops go into the neighborhoods, because they are still segregated, and they round up all blacks. All that they can find. It's like throwing poop up on the wall to see what sticks. And that's the kind of crap that happens. That's what happened to that little boy. And in the alternative, conversely, I showed a video and a couple of screenshots where the individual who brutally beat this black woman in a parking lot was being arrested, or had been arrested, and was not even handcuffed at any point during his arrest in the station. Not handcuffed. So you have to ask yourself, where do you even, how, you know, what country do we live in when this kind of thing can exist? And the immediate condemnation of a child can just happen on a perception. Just 5 years older than my Moody Boot back here. They had him in handcuffs. The kinds of things they were saying were like the same kind of things that make you wonder, why would they even consider? Why? Because he had to do something. All black kids are bad, you know? I don't want to digress again. So, anyway, I'm going to get... That's my feet. I'm going to get off of here before I end up talking about something else that it does not relate to the subject at hand. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for the comments, and I'm going to be looking. Please feel free to share this and like or whatever. Go to my Facebook page, Facebook.com/C Elise Smith, or my website at www.CAlease-writer.com, or my YouTube page, Dr. Cynthia Elise Smith. The doctor is in. If you search that out, you should be able to find it. Okay. I thank you again. Don't forget to share. Talk to you later. Dr. Cindy out.